channel. So it has been around a month since I last filmed. Now there are some good reasons why, and I will get into that later. So I had a psychology session, and naturally ever since I have been in deep thought, so I have just made a coffee and I want to compile some of my tips for coping and staying sane, whether you're working from home, self-isolating, or like me and you're a student studying at home. So I've put together some of my best tips and some things that I think you should implement to stay in a stable headspace. I am going to give you a bit of a mental health update because my channel is basically like a diary entry. So it's very therapeutic for me, and hopefully it can help some of you guys feel better if you're going through the same thing. That being said, I'm going to leave a time frame right here of the time that you can skip to if you are not wanting to watch that. I understand it might be a bit heavy to also hear about my mental health if you're going through your own problems at the moment, and I completely understand. So if you're not particularly interested in seeing this, then as I said, it has been a little while. I think it's been a month or so since I last checked in with you guys, and I do find it really confronting and difficult to post anything about my mental health, as I do want this channel to be a place of light and positivity. But I've come to the realization that I'm not being 100% authentic if I'm not talking about the topics that truly concern me, like mental health and things that I want to be known for spreading a positive message. And I thought to myself, if I'm dealing with this, the likelihood of one of you guys struggling with issues like this is very high. And if I can help just one of you, then my job here is done. I don't even know where to begin. Recently I've been in a pretty low point during my life. It's sort of disappointing because I've taken measures to try and change my headspace, and I've been given an opportunity to reside in safety. And I just keep expecting my headspace to just get better and to suddenly start feeling like my old self, and not like I have to put on a mask, and not feel like everything takes so much energy. Every little mundane task is so draining, and I just haven't been doing the best recently. I am dealing with my own trauma. I've been initiating psychology for a year, and that has finally come through, but before that I wasn't exactly willing to admit that I actually needed help. Now that is number one big mistake. I think a lot of people, especially in our generation, assume that getting any form of help or psychological intervention is a weakness. I have come to terms with the fact that it is a strength, it is introspection, it is knowing what you need to be able to cope effectively, and I highly recommend therapy if there's anything at all that you feel can be worked out with a professional. I mean, I always say that we all have our own individual baggage, and I think daily life can be so much better if you just have someone to go through things and provide coping strategies, and it can overall just be a really positive experience. So I've just been feeling stuck in a rut recently. I forced myself to cope and to push through for 6 weeks, and then I don't know whether it's burnout or depression or a combination of both, but I sort of just crashed, and it got to this point where I had no energy left to give, nothing. Recently I've come to the realization that 6 months of healing is not going to equate to 15 years of trauma. I don't know, as I said, there were all these really positive changes. I felt inside of me that the difficulty was just as intense, but the variables were slightly different. But then I had an epiphany, and I realized that the only constant variable in life is change. And so often I know we associate change with a negative connotation, but change is positive because whatever state you are in now, it's like this hope that you can get out of it and things can be better. Life is ever evolving, ever changing. So for me, this is a reassurance that I've had depressive episodes in the past, and history shows that after these depressive episodes, I usually feel okay for a while. So I know in my heart that this too shall pass. I know that I need to hear this, but I don't know who else needs to hear this. But just because you are stuck now, it doesn't mean you're going to be stuck forever. I can almost guarantee you there will be light again at the end of the tunnel. So I briefly just want to touch on my upload schedule. I have literally a plethora of videos that have been filmed and unedited. This is an exciting announcement, but the MacBook issue is figured out. All that's left for me to do now is to buy a USB-C to A converter, as my hard drive can't plug into my computer. So in the meantime, you guys are getting this video and I will work on uploading some content. Just another disclaimer, most of it will be pre-filmed. I really enjoy the videos I've filmed. I haven't been able to edit them, but I will edit them as soon as I possibly can. I hope you don't mind that the clips are a bit old. I'm working to get fresh content on my channel. I'm actually working on a series where I do a bit of internet analysis. I've been so inspired by Tiffany Ferg and Kristen Leo's informative videos recently, so I am definitely going to dabble in that world a bit. Also, new setup. Let me know what you guys think. I purchased a few furniture pieces. That will be in a later video, but I hope you don't mind this setup. I think it's nice. I didn't really like the window or the door. I hate this wall color, but it's a rental, so not much I can do about that. I would much prefer a crisp white wall, but this is what we're working with and it's not the end of the world, it's just a first world problem. I'm going to take this time while I am not physically at school to get as many videos edited and uploaded as I can. So once I get this USB converter, I'm going to do my best to get videos up Wednesday and Saturday so I can roll out some of the old content and start making fresh content. Once I do upload the old content, I'm not exactly sure if I will have 2 videos a week, but we will see. So that's my mental health update. That's how I'm doing. I'm working on it. I'm still not prime, still not optimal function, but I am working on it. I'm taking active measures to ensure my well-being, which is what this video is about, because we have a lovely little friend, coronavirus. Well, technically COVID-19, which is an added burden to show up here. So I just want to share with you some of the tips I have to effectively cope in this trying and really strange time period. It's like a warped sense of reality. It's like, is this surreal? Is this real? Is this just a really bad nightmare? Well, here we are, folks. So I just feel like coronavirus is just another spanner in the works. This time period has been really weird. I'm not going to blame it on the Mercury retrograde, but this part of the year has just been especially sucky, and I don't have reasons for you as of now, but if I come up with any, I'll let you know. I'll vocalize them. I hope that all of you guys are doing okay in this time period. I know that a small percentage of my audience is from the USA and Germany, and I hope you guys are all doing well. I'm sending my love and well wishes to you all, and I really hope that none of you have been personally affected. As always, if anyone needs any support, my Instagram DMs are always open. While scientists and researchers are working on a vaccine, all we can really do now is to enforce social distancing, make sure you wash your hands, and only make necessary trips to protect others that have a duty in society. So if you have made the choice to self-isolate, or if quarantine has been enforced, here are some of my best tips to preserve your mental and physical health. So my first tip is to keep a routine. I cannot stress this enough. I'm someone who thrives on routine, but also I think in general, if you have work, if you have deadlines to meet, if you have schoolwork, anything you have to do and it has to be done, make sure you set a schedule. So for me, being at home, I do have the luxury of sleeping in as I have nowhere to get to. That being said, I do think it's really important to have a morning routine and to not think, oh, I'll wake up when I do and I'll get work done when I do and things will just happen. I really like time blocking, but I know some people don't work well with a micromanaged schedule. It's all about trial and error and what works best for you. So micromanaging is not for everyone. If you do have something you have to achieve, then structure is a prerequisite. So make sure you're taking it day by day and making manageable goals. Don't plan out your next 2 weeks. You don't know what your physical or mental state is going to look like in 2 weeks. And from personal experience, I know that you can't ever predict that. Make sure the goals you are setting for yourself are manageable. Today for me is actually a 3-period day, so I'm taking the luxury of filming this video right now. So the to-do list I wrote today is actually really short. I just have to finish my commerce assessment, which is I want to say it's like 70% done. And then I have to do my maths lesson from today, do my visual arts and photography lesson from today. I went to film and edit, so obviously I'm completing the first part of the process, filming right now, and prep for English, which is on Friday. I haven't done anything that I know I won't be able to do. I've also listed them in order of priorities. So commerce for me is number one, and then maths is the next thing I really need to work on. Don't put anything on your to-do list that is unachievable. I'm really lucky that today, because I do only have 3 periods, and 2 of my periods are my electives, I know that I'll be able to get into a routine and get work done, but also work on things that I don't necessarily need to complete for school today, and that way I'll have less pressure tomorrow. So going off what I just said, a morning routine is a crucial part of your day. It establishes the mood and the tone for your day, and that's why I think you should make your morning routine really relaxing. I like to allow myself a minimum of an hour to make sure it is not stress inducing and as relaxing and calm as a morning routine can possibly be. Saw me just do that, they would have killed me. Latte art, I suppose. Also, this is a highlight of my morning. Definitely recommend anyone who feels like they wake up and they need to go back to sleep but they've had adequate sleep. Coffee. Also, if you haven't had adequate sleep, try and get adequate sleep. Cheers. Unstoppable, great, never the same. So the current structure of my day that is working for me is to have my morning routine, then a block of 2 hours hardcore focus, no distractions. I put my phone in a drawer, and anything else that can possibly distract me is not an option. Then I will have a 30-minute to an hour break depending on how much work I have to get done for the day, and that will be like my lunch break. Then after, I will get back to 2 hours of work. Then I will have an afternoon tea break. This is usually where I refuel coffee or go on a walk, connect with nature, do something. Then after that afternoon break, I will do another 2 hours of work, and then I will retire for the night. No more schoolwork. I will draft up some video idea notes, write some ideas, watch some friends, anything that makes me feel relaxed and calm. I have been having a lot of sleep issues recently. I'm trying out melatonin, but at this point it's too early to assess whether it's actually doing something. I'm gonna give that a while, but for now I would recommend, if you can, to have a sleep routine. I would recommend having a set time that you fall asleep and a set time that you wake up. Obviously, if you have insomnia like myself or any other night terrors, then this might not be possible, and I completely understand that. Again, I think it's just about trial and error, and hopefully you can find something that works for you. Fingers crossed melatonin will work for me, but we will see. So another one of my tips is to get natural light. Currently I have my blinds open, which is creating this great shadow. I really need studio lights. I notice when I'm depressed, I tend to gravitate towards wanting to keep my room really dark, which first and foremost is not great psychologically, being in a dark room all day. I have read some studies that being in a dark environment can also affect your circadian rhythm. So that's your body's natural ability to tell you when you need to sleep. So obviously that's something we don't want to impair. If you're currently at home because you're being forced to self-isolate, work from home, do online school, I would highly recommend that you let some of your natural light into your study space so that you can promote the best environment for you to work and to also be able to sleep. Now, another thing, sun exposure is always great. I know that I haven't been doing enough of this recently, but if mentally or physically you need a break, then venturing out into the great outdoors is a fantastic idea in my opinion. Make sure to apply some SPF, our sun is still blazing, even with the coronavirus. So tying in with my previous point, even just 30 minutes of exercise a day can really help. As we all know, exercising releases endorphins. If you are quarantined, there are plenty of on YouTube that you can find and do at home. So personally, I struggle with chronic pain. So at the moment, the only form of exercise that is really accessible to me is walking. I like going on trail walks. For me, there's something so beautiful about going at sunset or sunrise. Just try to avoid coming in contact with people and you should be okay. So my next tip you guys might not be the most fond of, but just hear me out, okay? So for me, cleaning is something that really helps to calm me and soothe me, and I simply cannot get work done in an unclean environment. Now, this can be something like sanitizing your desk, your electronics. I try and do a wipe down of all my electronics. I also make sure to clean my makeup brushes, my leather goods, and my furniture at least once a week. Now, for you, this might just look like a tidy up, or you can do a deep clean like organizing files or clearing out your closet. Just be aware that this can open a bit of a can of worms, but in my opinion, the satisfaction you feel after is well worth the hassle. I like to go through my file folders, so I keep any of my work related documents. I have another one for any loose leaves from school. I have a feeling that I will need to reference in the future. And then I also do a biannual wardrobe review. For me, in terms of clothing, it is not worth keeping clutter or things that I haven't worn for a while. I'd much rather sell them on my Depop or donate them to a better home. So make sure you're eating and hydrating. I know in times like these, it can be really easy to overlook these basics, but for optimal function, make sure you are fueling your body. It is the only one you have. My next tip is to preserve self-care routines. Now, I'm not talking about anything too extravagant or frivolous. Of course, if you feel that you need to pop on a face mask or to draw yourself a bath and soak in rose petals, then that's fine. But even something as simple as maintaining good hygiene is something that can make a huge difference in the way you are feeling. Along with preserving self-care routines, if you need a nap during the day, then take a nap. This morning I had psychology, I finished my session, I took a nap and I started filming. I'm still on task. I don't feel guilty for taking a nap because I know that if I didn't get some sleep, then I would have been dreading the rest of the day. My mental capacity, ability to function, and the quality of my work would be severely impaired. If you just need some time out, then just take a nap, take a break, do something that makes you feel refreshed and energized and happy. So during this time, I think a great tip would be to take up a hobby. I'm going to work on sketching, partially because I'm not sure what we're going to be doing remotely for visual arts, but also partially because that was something I wanted to work on this year, and I haven't actually gotten the time to do it because I find that sometimes I prioritize academia over my own hobbies and things that I know will be feel-goods and make me happy, which I don't advise. I think during this down period, it's a really good time to take up a hobby. I know that I'm also going to try and get started on a few of my books back there. Another thing that I'm going to be working on is working on some of my New Year's resolutions. I have been over this, but resolutions doesn't really sit well with me, so I'm just going to say some of my long-term and short-term goals. My next tip is to check in with your loved ones. So to check in with your family, extended family, even people that are living in your house, your friends. We're all struggling to an extent, so checking in with someone might really lift their spirits, and human connection is always great, even if we can't get it face to face at the moment. So last but certainly not least, minimize your news intake. Do not constantly refresh the news. We don't need to give ourselves excess anxiety. You have a right to feel uneasy, but news has been modified and designed to make you feel uneasy and fearful. And maybe just alert a family member, hey, I'm not checking the news today. If something really important comes up, then could you please let me know? And that way you are removing that burden from yourself and you do not feel the constant need to be scrolling through the COVID-19 updates. It's really not that necessary. Now, I also want to state, I'm not telling you during this trying and difficult time period to hustle. That is the least of my intentions. I also think it is completely normal to feel anxious and depressed to an extent during these times. tips. What I'm trying to articulate here is if you need a break, please take one. It's completely okay to have downtime. In fact, we function at our prime when we are well rested and in a good mental state. Sometimes I get caught up in the mindset that I constantly need to be doing something academic to be productive. And when I'm anxious or depressed, this isn't always a feasible option. Now, in the long run, prioritizing your mental health over academia can be way more productive. There is such a prevalent hustle culture in our day and age, and sometimes we need to take a step back because in reality, it's counterintuitive. Hustle culture leads to burnout. Burnout can and will impact your mental health, which can impact your ability to actually cope with life, which can lead to guilt about not being productive. And then the cycle starts again. It's a vicious cycle. All I'm trying to say is that if we stop that cycle in its tracks and respect our mental health above all else, then all else is going to be a lot easier to cope with. I haven't been in class for like literally 3 weeks, and for the first time in my life, I don't feel guilty about it because essentially when the choice is life or school, my life comes first. And I know to be able to be productive, I need to be in the right headspace. So that's just me being completely honest with you, and feel free to interpret that sentiment in whatever way you deem fitting. So I think that's everything I wanted to say in this video. It feels really good to get it off my chest, but also hopefully I can help you guys with some of these tips. Again, I know I've said this a lot, but I know these times are really uncertain and can provoke a lot of anxiety and depression, but these are just some of my tips to cope, and I hope they can help at least one of you. On that note, before I end the video, the message I want you to take from this video is that sometimes life has to fall apart before you can rebuild it. And I'll see you in my next video.